global pool of talent from Tokyo to San Francisco and beyond. Yet, employers across all sectors bear evidence that many recent graduates of our nation's tertiary institutions are incapable of critical thinking, unable to write correctly, and lacking in the informed confidence that is a crucial requirement for success in the modern world. This is evidence of the tragic decline in the tertiary education system and a call to action. An education consultant, Jacqueline Samuel Odiadi, in a recent interview said, "From our records in education history, it is evidence that Nigeria was an education hub in the region, and indeed the continent. In the days of apartheid, and much long after, the education destination was Nigeria until recently, when the education sector became open to private sector participation and was in disarray. Parents, children, and wards had no choice but to seek quality education outside the shores of the country, with many negative, heartrending stories of Nigerian students in the diaspora. There have been many explanations offered for this catastrophic and rapid decline. Some have posited that the management of the universities and polytechnics are to blame. Others have argued that the culture of mediocrity and poor standards that afflicts many facets of our society also affects universities. There is yet a school of thought that the state of our universities is a consequence of a deliberate attempt by past military governments to destroy the tertiary institutions they perceived as centers of the pro-democracy movement. Whatever the cause, the consequences of this decline are apparent and troubling. Strike actions by the staff of tertiary institutions have become a recurring event. Protesting poor pay and working conditions is a clear indication that something is wrong with the system. Where once before our universities were rightly seen as research and development powerhouses, they become the opposite. Now the quality of teaching and assessment is questionable, and allegations of academic corruption, including sexual harassment and assault by lecturers and administrators, are recorded across most institutions. Other challenges put forward as being responsible for the state of the sector include poor funding, infrastructural decay, lack of political will, inconsistent government policies, corruption within and outside the system, obsolete curriculum, plagiarism, examination malpractice, and other vices, and of course, brain drain. There is a desperate need to review and overhaul every facet of tertiary education in Nigeria, including structure, funding, regulation, and access. Our nation's ability to participate productively in the new global economy depends in no small measure on the quality of education and training systems from primary through to tertiary. And this is a time to do what is necessary to safeguard the future of our young people and our country. So, welcome to the National Summit on Tertiary Education Reform, with the theme, Reimagining Tertiary Education in Nigeria, Issues, Challenges, and Solutions. Challenges and Solutions.
Ladies and gentlemen, you would agree with me that this short documentary we have just watched serves as a tone and pace setting for the next 2 days. We are starting far behind schedule, and so we would waste no time. If you look on it in your program, you will see that the next in line, what we have next is goodwill messages, and we will start with Right Honorable Goodluck Nana Opia, the Minister of State for Education, to please give us a goodwill message.
You can come over here, sir. Thank you.
Excellency, the Right Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives, Excellency, the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished senators here present, distinguished honorable members, please permit me to, I am very pleased and privileged to participate today in this program, Reimaging Tertiary Education in Nigeria, Issues, Challenges, and Solutions. So on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Education, I extend warm and sincere appreciation to Right Honorable Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila and his team for passionately intervening in the face-off with us and organizing this summit, which I believe is in continuation of the Speaker's commitment to ensure that the legislature contributes to creating a stable environment for our tertiary education sector. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it to be noted that at the inception of the administration, this administration in 2015, the Federal Minister of Education, under the leadership of Madam Adamu, initiated a consultative group of experts, professionals, international development partners, and other relevant stakeholders across the country to discuss the key issues and challenges of the education sector and to chart a way forward. The main objective of that initiative was to reform the education sector in general. The outcome of the consultative forum was presented as Education for Change, a ministerial strategic plan, MOSP. The ministerial strategic plan articulates a pathway positioning Nigeria's education sector to effectively play its central role in achieving the development agenda. The plan is built on 10 pillars and around 3 result areas, namely access, quality, and system strengthening. A comprehensive focus of the plan is on tertiary education and subsector with well-defined objectives and strategies for implementation. I wish to inform this gathering that there are 215 universities, 4 inter-university centers, 219 polytechnics, monotechnics, 115 colleges of education, 115 colleges of education, and 147 innovation enterprise institutions in Nigeria. Of all these, there are 49 federal universities, 40 federal polytechnics, 27 colleges of education, 19 monotechnics, 25 vocational enterprise institutions, 7 innovation enterprise institutions under the purview of the Federal Ministry of Education. The image of Nigerian public universities has over the years been significantly distorted. We can all remember with nostalgia how Nigerian universities used to be citadel of learning and attracted scholars and students from all over the world. They were known for their academic rigor and scholarship comparable to the top universities in Europe and America. But both students and staff exchanges were commonly practiced and the standards were comparable and competitive. Beginning from the 80s and 90s, a number of socio-economic developments started to impact negatively on the image of Nigerian public universities. As more universities were established to improve access to the growing population, the dwindling economic realities made it difficult for government to sustain the adequate funding to maintain the quality of teaching and learning, infrastructure, as well as maintain the compensation structure necessary for attracting global talent needed to sustain intellectualism. This informed the opening of opportunities for the private sector to become engaged in university education. In addition to the withdrawal of expatriates from the university system, the brain drain phenomenon started and intensified as competing employers of labor paid wages with substantial premium over that of the university, which invariably affected the quality of our tertiary education. Over time, more tertiary institutions were established to improve access, but the quality dwindled. Several attempts to reform the funding structure by Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, has succeeded in disbursing over 2.3 trillion naira to the various institutions. This has helped in creating new infrastructure, supported research and improved documentation. However, the increasing population with its associated increased demand for tertiary education had made it difficult to satisfy the various demands for funding by government, especially in the face of dwindling resources with an equally more competitive demand by other sectors. Similarly, federal government enacted the Universities Autonomy Act, which among others made new provisions for autonomy, management, and reorganization of the universities in Nigeria, provide for a governing council with freedom to exercise its powers in good management, growth, and development of the universities. However, in practice, administrative, political, and financial autonomy are granted to various degrees of independence. The most opaque in the area of financial autonomy, as government is responsible for almost 100% funding of public universities. Similarly, the universities are at liberty to generate revenue internally and spend as approved by the governing council. The cumulative effect of such a dysfunctional autonomy manifested in a clamor by various tertiary institutions-based unions for better funding to address the teaching, research, and community service functions of these institutions. Disagreements between federal government and these unions led to a number of strikes, whose cumulative effect includes disruption of academic calendar, dwindling quality of teaching, learning, and research, increasing cases of examination malpractice and sexual harassment, dwindling trust in our tertiary education system, extended stay in completing education, increasing appetite for more stable education in other climes, and reduced focus in research development linkages. Funding of our tertiary institutions is undoubtedly the underlying reason for their decline, and is very apposite that we begin to seek effective and sustainable funding mechanisms for our tertiary institutions. It is therefore in this context that this paper on identifying and implementing pragmatic approaches to funding public tertiary education in Nigeria becomes very necessary. I want to thank you for listening to me. Thank you, Your Excellencies.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister of State for Education. Please, he deserves another round of applause. Thank you very much. Before we go on with the goodwill messages, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I recognize the presence in our midst of the House Leader, Honorable Alhassan Adodogwa. You're welcome, sir. Beside him is the Chief Whip of the House of Representatives, Honorable Muhammad Tahir Munguno. You're welcome, sir. We also have Senator Larry Tejoshua. You're welcome, distinguished. Thank you very much.
So moving on to the next goodwill message, which is the last before we kickstart the event fully. We have Senator Dr. Ibrahim Gube, the Senate leader who is representing here the President of the Nigerian Senate. So please come forward for the goodwill message. Thank you, sir.
Your Excellency, the Right Honorable Speaker, Mr. Gbajabiamila, Your Excellency, the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. General Olusegun Obasanjo, distinguished senators here present, the House Leader and the other principal officers that are here present, distinguished senators, members of the House of Representatives, distinguished guests, Minister of State that is here, distinguished guests, gentlemen. The President, Dr. Ahmed Lawal, should have been here by himself, but only because he had to travel very early this morning to Gombe on a very special assignment. He asked me to come and represent him. So he tenders his apologies to the Right Honorable Speaker. So I'm going to read his message. It is a pleasure to be here at this moment, at this very important summit on reimagining tertiary education in Nigeria. Issues, challenges, and solutions, which is surely going to be helpful for finding answers to the problems of our tertiary institutions or tertiary education. The state of our tertiary education has often been in focus because of the many challenges before them, including especially the dearth of facilities and utilities, which are incidentally key requirements for the smooth functioning of the academia. We have often also been by education sector related unions, and what additionally points to the inadequacies in the sector. What this means is that we must be ready to be in the process of finding solutions to the myriad of issues frequently leading to the disagreements. We obviously have no option but to continue on this path of the resolutions because of the crucial roles that tertiary institutions play in the molding of the nation's human capacity, and as quotient. For its advanced nature, aside its multidisciplinary outlay, the tertiary institutions are a ready-made market for the private and the public sector employment, consistent with the global expectations that beneficiaries are at the cutting-edge stage of reasoning. It is against this background that finding key challenges bedeviling the sector is a multi-stakeholder affair in the bid to harness the benefits of divergent views towards some consensus. A summit of this nature is most appropriate for this drive, and even more so when it is being organized by the exalted office of the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives. I am most assured that this summit will be productive for focusing at different angles of subjects and for the invitation extended to qualified participants. We will surely be looking forward to reach resolutions afterwards. It is against this background that I congratulate the office of the Honorable Speaker for taking the initiative, as I commend us all for finding time to be here in the interest of our fatherland. I wish you successful deliberation. God bless you all. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, distinguished Senator Abdullahi Gobir, who is representing the President of the Senate at this all-important occasion. Nation building, ladies and gentlemen, is a joint task. That is the slogan under which the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, came into office. And of course, since he became the Speaker, he has been tasking his colleagues jointly to build Nigeria, the Nigeria of our dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please put your hands together for the Speaker for providing good leadership in the Nigerian House of Representatives. Now, let me say this, that top on the agenda of the House of Representatives, 9th House of Representatives, is education, 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 in the words of Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister. And of course, the Speaker has been going up and down, ensuring that he mediate, and of course he did mediate, between ASU and the federal government. And of course, the result was that ASU called off its strike recently and even commended the Speaker in its statement announcing the suspension of the strike. I think the Speaker deserves a bigger round of applause. Now, to further that, the Speaker decided to organize this all-important summit, call stakeholders to brainstorm on the challenges, on the issues, and provide solutions to the problems in the tertiary education sector. And that is why we're gathered here today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, without bothering you too much, it is my pleasure and privilege, a rare one at that, to invite to this podium His Excellency, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Rev. Femi Gbajabiamila, to tell us why he decided to organize this summit. Thank you very much.
His Excellency General Obasanjo, GCFR, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Lawan, GCON, the President of the Senate, represented ably here by distinguished Senator Abdullahi Gobir, principal officers of the Senate and the House, particularly the leader of the House and the Chief Whip, the Chairman Education Committee in the House, Tertiary Education, that is Honorable Sulaiman Goro, and the Chairman Basic Education, Honorable Julius Yobere. Senators and honorable members here present, the Minister of Education, who just recently, and I thank you for making time out in these very difficult times to attend this very important occasion, because I'm aware that you recently lost your very dear wife. May her soul rest in peace. Vice Chancellors, Rectors, Pro-Chancellors, I see Dr. Tajo Show here. Thank you for coming. Moderators, panelists, guests, thank you very much for being in attendance.
Let me go back for emphasis and thank former President General Olusegun Obasanjo, who in very short notice and in spite of his very busy schedule took time out to attend what I know he considers to be a priority in nation building, and that is education, an issue surrounding education. The House is most grateful. For your attendance at a very short notice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be here this morning and to welcome you to the National Summit on Tertiary Education Reform. I thank all of you who have taken the time to be here today as guest speakers and panelists, guests of honor and participants of every shape. Our nation's greatest resource is not the oil that flows through our deltas, nor the abundant minerals that lie underground in every corner of our country. Our most incredible resource has always been the Nigerian people. Now, this immense collection of tongues and tribes, bound together under one flag, striving through adversity and achieving despite every obstacle. As we are gathered here this morning, our cause is more than to seek solutions to challenges of tertiary education in Nigeria. In fact, we are here today on a mission to save Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, a just society cannot guarantee its citizens equal outcomes, any more than a doctor can promise eternal good health. What we can and must do is ensure all our citizens are afforded equal opportunities to succeed or fail on their own. For Nigeria to reach its potential and achieve the greatness we are capable of, we must invest in our people. We must build ladders of opportunity that allow our citizens to scale great heights and achieve their best dreams. In this generation, social, economic, and political development is and will continue to be powered by advancements in information and communication technologies. We must provide the resources to modernize and improve our education infrastructure and provide the right training for young people from primary through tertiary education. This goes to the heart of our survival as a nation and as a people. I say that because I believe our country will not survive long if our children cease to believe their best dreams are possible here. More than at any other time in our history, we are called to speak truthfully to one another about the challenges we face and the hard choices necessary to overcome those challenges. Allow me this morning, therefore, to speak the truth as I see it, so that together we can agree on what we need to do to overcome. Time was when the tertiary institutions in our country were centers of excellence, comparable to the best institutions anywhere in the world. There was a time when our brothers and sisters from across Africa and even farther sought out our institutions and we welcomed them in droves. That time, sadly, is no more. It used to be that a student admitted to the university knew the date of their graduation and graduated on that day. And it was at a time that a career in academia guaranteed stable employment and an honorable quality of life. For the most part, all of these now exist as memories of a distant past. But it really wasn't so long ago. I do not speak of these things to mourn the past or dwell in the memory of what was. I speak from a place of hope that by reminding ourselves of what was, we might be inspired to embrace the possibility of all that could be if we make the right choices now. For 8 months this year, students of federal tertiary institutions sat at home due to a litany of unresolved issues between the Academic Staff Union of Universities. And I'm glad that the past president and the current president and members of ASU are here present today. Our students sat at home for 8 months, and the federal government, between the disputes between the federal government and ASU. Now, these university strikes are almost perennial and preceded this government. The recent one was not the first, and sadly may not be the last, unless we determine to make it so. The end of the strike was a relief to all. It meant the resumption of academic activities and a return to routine for students. However, the end of the strike did not mean all the issues of funding, education standard, and student and staff welfare had been resolved. At the time, I called for the government, universities, unions, and citizens to see the moment as an opportunity to begin the critical conversation about the future of public tertiary education in this country. This National Summit on Tertiary Education Reform is the manifestation of our commitment in the 9th House of Representatives to engender a national conversation, to consider bold ideas and radical innovations to restructure and reform public tertiary education in Nigeria. How do we ensure that every child born in Nigeria in this generation and hereafter can compete favorably in an ever-changing world? This is the defining issue of our age. And the answer is simple. We do it by providing a quality education that empowers the mind to ask hard questions and accept complicated solutions. We do it by training our people to revel in inquiry, embrace complexity, and not be afraid of knotty problems. Education is a silver bullet, I believe, that eliminates poverty and lack. It presents hope and confidence and reduces violence and strife. Education offers us the promise that by the application of our minds and the work of our hands, we can make this world better and improve the life of man on this earth. Education is a gift that keeps on giving through generations. A university degree or tertiary qualification of some other kind can be the catalyst that changes the trajectory of an entire family. Evidence abounds of the transformations that can happen when ambition and diligence are amplified by access to quality education and training. By all means, in a perfect world, access to education will be a fundamental benefit afforded to every individual from basic through tertiary. And our learning centers will be majestic citadels of research and innovation open to all who seek knowledge, regardless of means. But this is not a perfect world. In this real world, education is a commodity, and a quality education even more so. Therefore, the central public policy challenge is the conflict between the competing objectives of access and quality. How do we fund a quality tertiary education without imposing costs that make access to quality education impossible for most people? Now that's a big question. I don't have an answer to that question. I have my own ideas, and I have, as a legislator, sought to advance those ideas through the legislative policy process. In 2019, I sponsored and the House of Representatives passed the Students' Loan Access to Higher Education Bill to provide access to education financing for students who qualify. That bill presently is in the Senate, awaiting concurrence. We hope it will get to the President before the expiration of this administration. But a framework of student loans is only one idea. This summit aims to provide an opportunity for all Nigerians and friends of Nigeria to present those ideas for consideration, examination, debate, and eventually action. As part of this summit, we published a call for papers requesting scholars, tertiary education administrators, and local and international stakeholders to make submissions on the theme of the summit, Reimagining Tertiary Education in Nigeria, Issues, Challenges, and Solutions, and other designated sub-themes which you will come to hear during the course of this two-day summit. Now, by this morning, we have received over 1,000 such submissions.
including from outside the country. This tells you how important and how interested people are in the education sector in Nigeria. Over 1,000 submissions, as far flung as Oxford University. Because people realize and understand not only the importance of education, but the place Nigeria holds in the Community of Nations, in Africa. As it's often said, you educate one child, you educate a whole village. You ignore one child, you ignore a whole village. Now, a technical team has been appointed to collate and review these submissions. The conversations we hold at this summit and the submissions we have received will form the basis of the policy action plan and implementation framework we will unveil shortly after the conclusion of the summit. Additionally, a journal of the submissions will be published as a guide and reference to the future. Now let me, for emphasis, say this. This is not just going to be a talk shop. Let me repeat. The recommendations, the submissions that we collate, and whatever the outcomes of this summit will form an action plan upon which legislators will act to salvage our tertiary education in Nigeria. So I urge you to seize the occasion of this summit to speak harsh truths and break tables. The time for reticence and shibboleths have long since passed. Now is the time for drastic action, motivated by the appreciation of painful realities. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, the American jurist of the Supreme Court, once wrote, "The ultimate good desired is better reached by free trade in ideas. The best test of truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the market." We have convened here a marketplace of ideas, and the panel sessions at this summit have been carefully curated to allow for a variety of perspectives and viewpoints. We have not gathered here to politely agree with one another. We will respectfully disagree and diligently challenge each other in this marketplace of ideas until the best ideas survive to lead us towards the ultimate good of our nation. This summit has been planned and executed in just under 4 weeks by a dedicated team of young men and women who understand the high stakes of this moment and are working tirelessly to make their positive mark in the most consequential area of our national life. I salute their efforts and thank them most sincerely for their dedication. I am grateful to the Director General of the National Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, and his team at the Institute for their support. I thank our friends at the Conrad Adenauer Stiftung for their contribution to this summit and for always being available to aid in the service of Nigeria. More importantly, I want to thank every single member of the House of Representatives, one way or the other, not just apart from the Committee on Education. The members who have, in one voice, stood to speak about the ills of the education sector in Nigeria, and who are undoubtedly determined to make sure that the issue of strikes based on welfare, based on infrastructure, or whatever the issues are, I think that will come to pass. I thank them most profusely for allowing my office and cooperating with my office to make sure that these things, we do not only talk the talk, but that we walk that talk. And I thank all of our invited guests, including some of who have traveled long distances on very short notice. Again, I want to very profusely thank the former president, who himself is a proprietor of a university, and who during his term made education put education on the front burner in his administration. Ladies and gentlemen, I have often said that nation building is a joint task. Our best visions for Nigeria can only be achieved through the dedicated efforts of men and women of good conscience acting in the collective best interest of this country. This is one such defining moment when our forward march requires that we harness the best of who we are in a joint endeavor to break down the barriers that limit us and set our sights on the stars that lie beyond the horizon. All of you who have answered the call to participate in this project have shown your dedication to our nation. We will honor your commitment by ensuring that this summit produces specific action to achieve monumental transformation in our nation's tertiary education system. I want to assure you all that by the grace of God and the works of our hands, the Nigeria of our dreams is still possible and attainable, and we will get there together. Thank you. God bless and keep you all, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Before we move to the next phase of this program, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me recognize the presence of the Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Tertiary Education, Honorable Comrade Aminu Suleiman. Sir, thank you very much.
Now we will move to the key session of the summit. I would like to introduce to you Mrs. Maube Ogun Yusuf, who is the lead moderator for the first session. But before we start the session, please, I would like to ask Mr. Speaker, kindly do lead the guests on the high table so that we can create space. But His Excellency, please, you will be the main person speaking in the next session, so do kindly take your seat, sir. Former President, yes. Yes, please. Thank you very much. As Mr. Speaker has said, this is no talk show. This sessions that we will have over the next 2 days in this education summit would ensure that there will be an action plan for legislation that will salvage Nigeria's education sector. You would agree with me that Mr. Speaker could really just have called for papers, ideas, suggestions, and these would have been collated at the House of Representatives, and this action plan would still have been brought out. But because he has education on his front burner, he is ensuring that persons who can defend these suggestions and recommendations will be present here to speak on this to ensure that the best idea carries the action plan. Please, I would like to hand over to Mrs. Maube Ogun to take charge and start the first panel session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omelogo Nadi. Mr. Speaker of the House of Representatives, the representative of the Senate President, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, distinguished guests, among whom is my boss, and I'd very much like to recognize him, Dr. John Momo. Yes, indeed. It's not easy. I've been in his employ now for close to 14 years, if not more. And Thank you so much for having me, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to believe it's still morning, or are we teetering towards afternoon now? It's afternoon. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I didn't get a response. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is Maokwe Ogun Yusuf, as I've been introduced, and I have the singular honor and privilege to moderate this panel titled Reimagining Tertiary Education in Nigeria, Issues, Challenges, and Solutions. I'm not doing it alone. I'm going to be inviting members of my panel. The star of my panel is already seated. Your Excellency, it's a real privilege to meet you in person and also to have you on this panel. His Excellency Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR. Ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not busy, kindly give him a warm round of applause. I also have, who's been sitting right beside me, Professor Hilary Edoga, who is the Vice Chancellor of the Michael Okpara University of Agriculture. Oh, former, beg your pardon. Joining him on the panel, or joining us on the panel also, will be Professor Haman Tukos Ahad, who is the Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Technology, Mina. Professor, if you're here. Do kindly make your way to the podium. I'm looking for Professor Tukur. Okay, also joining us here is a former Vice Chancellor, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, my alma mater, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundigbe. Gentlemen, this way, please. Oh, that was the stairs. Sorry. You're welcome, sir. Can you sit here? So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this panel today. As already shown in the documentary and also as documented finely in Mr. Speaker's speech, the problems bedeviling our tertiary education are legion. We're yet to recover from the 8-month strike embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and it's uncertain if learning will continue owing to the unhappy incident of prorated salaries. I'm going to be starting with former President Olusegun Obasanjo. You've had the privilege and the onerous task of managing not just our tertiary education, but education as a whole and indeed every aspect of our country, Nigeria. When you reflect, when you try to go with the theme of this event, reimagining tertiary education in Nigeria, for you, what opportunities would you say that we have missed? And that if you could give advice, because advice is the only thing you can give now, another tenor is totally out of it, what areas would you say we need to look to begin to reimagine our tertiary education system and set it on the right path?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Let me begin by thanking the Honorable Speaker for doing me the honor of inviting me at short notice, as he himself declared. And of course, when it concerns education, also thank the Speaker and commend him for the role he played in the 8-month strike of ASU, where both ASU and the government were digging their heels down. And the Speaker used his God-given wisdom to make them stop digging their feet down. And we got a solution, even though, as the Speaker himself rightly pointed out, it is not a permanent solution. But at least the students can go back to school. One or two stories I've heard about students who could not go to schools. Some of them are ruined for life because they have engaged in things that will affect them throughout the rest of their life. So, Honorable Speaker, we are all indebted to you for the efforts that you made. Before I come to your question, Madam Moderator, Speaker, you gave in your statement, I jotted down 4 points, and I want to refer to those 4 points before I come to you. 1, you said the greatest resource of Nigeria is Nigerian people. Nobody will dispute that with you. And anybody who doesn't know that must be grateful, a compound fool. The greatest resource, our people. And how many are we today? We are almost 250 million. 216 million. Now that's great resource. Great resource. You also said success or failure should be left to each of us to make. But before you can make success or failure, you have to be got to a certain level. A certain level when you will be on your own. I'll come back to that. Then you said, it took about 4 months to plan this. 4 weeks, sorry, 4 weeks, not months, 4 weeks. So this came after you have performed that distinguished service, which is also a very good point on your part. You face a problem and you try to solve the problem. You didn't stop there and you say, okay, what can we do next? The 4th point, talk of access to education. Education. And the 5th point that I jot down, nation building. Education is the mortar that will put the bricks together. Now, if this is the point that you have made, and you have made very eloquently, and then challenge all of us. Tertiary education is very important. But education per se, particularly popular education, that has left 20 million of our population out of school, 20 million of our children out of school. And those 20 million have no access to education. They cannot be effectively part of nation building because they have not have opportunity to develop their innate capacity to the extent that they can be useful to themselves, to their family, and to their community, let alone the nation, let alone Africa. Now, the tertiary education is important. And my emphasis will be on education broadly, because the 5 points that I have taken from your speech, and brilliant speech you have made, are zeroed on education in general, although we have the issue of ASU and the government. And that will be an unending. In my time, we had it. And if any government had done anything for ASU, my government did. They all started buying cars and building houses and even primary school teachers started buying cars. They call it Bemuadremi. Now, but we must find a solution. The executive secretary of NUC talk of challenge in the video clip. Talk of challenge or challenges. So what are the issues? The issues to me is that we are cutting more than we can chew. We are cutting more than we can chew. And who is looking at our population ahead of time, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And what can we do about it? And apart from food, which is very important, which I am, food production, food security, nutrition security, who are the people thinking about that and working forward to that? Health. The third important aspect of our life is education. After food and after health. Now, if this is the position, and these are rights that we must have, right to food security, right to health, and right to education, what do? We know that if we continue the way we are going, by the year 2030, what our population will be. By the year 2040, what our population will be. By the year 2050, what our population will be. It's not the case of a cousin of mine whose wife delivered and came to me and said, "Uncle, give me money." I said, "What for?" He said, "For an emergency." I said, "What is the emergency?" He said, "My wife has just delivered." I said, "Your wife was pregnant for 9 months." He said, "Yes." "How can your wife be pregnant for 9 months and delivering a child be an emergency?" He said, "I didn't think about it." Now, Could it be that we won't think about what our appropriation and how we will sort it out? And I believe that you asked, where did we miss the road?
I'm asking more specifically what opportunities we have missed.
We missed the road when the whole world is talking of full education for all, and we did not follow that. It was a bad miss. Education for all. We even have target date globally. We today, out of 244 million children out of school, we have 20 million, almost 10%. We miss, we continue to miss, and we are missing. That is a very, very bad one. Can we do anything about it? I believe we can. I believe we can.
What can we do?
Those 20 million children that are out of school, we can get them back to school. If we don't get them back to school, we are preparing for Boko Haram of tomorrow. And nobody needs to tell you anything about that. It will happen. It will happen as sure as daylight. It will happen. And what can we do? Where are these 20 million children? Where are they located? Can we have schools in the morning and school in the afternoon to get them in at least for 6 years? In this period of 6 years where this is happening, we will prepare for the transition from primary school to secondary school. And if we are able to do that, we have started the process with education, instrument of nation building. And education, the tertiary, of course, you have, but even your workforce, I believe anybody who is able to go through secondary school has the basic to prepare himself as a working person. And that is possible. And that must be the minimum. And I believe Nigeria has the resources to be able to get all the children of Nigeria through secondary education. All the children of Nigeria, no exception, male and female.
Now, while that might be, that's certainly a possibility. I mean, if government were to look deep within, I'm sure it can find the resources to ensure that all young people between the ages children of school age are able to go to school. But what we really want to focus on right now is tertiary education.
Yes, that's where I'm disagreeing with you. I think I'm making myself clear that tertiary education is taken at the top. Now, in the case of a crippled, and you look at his load on his head and he's bending, and you say, hey, let me help you put your load right. You say, look at it at the bottom. Now, what are you doing at the top when the bottom is rotten? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I agree with the
speaker.
I agree with the executive secretary. I agree with the minister of state. Now, the tertiary education requires attention, but not only tertiary education, secondary education requires attention, primary education requires attention. If you pay attention to tertiary and you ignore
secondary and primary,
then you are trying to straighten the load of the cripple and just the load. What you need to try and straighten is his leg. And when you straighten his leg, his load will be straightened. Now, I believe to a large extent that is our problem. Now, then let me continue.
Mr. President, just before you do, I think that, we'll have to, put it to the House then, that perhaps they would have had to, change the topic or the theme of this particular event to reimagining education in Nigeria. Because what they're trying to, emphasize here is reimagining tertiary education. I'm sure you know very well that, we have problems. As I did say, the problem with our tertiary education are many. From brain drain to inadequate funding. Do you think...
wait, yeah. What of in our secondary?
So let me ask you, if you think that if government can find the resources to ensure that all children are able to go to school from primary to secondary, education, do you think that government also has sole responsibility to fund tertiary education?
Education is not the responsibility of government alone. Education is the responsibility of all. If you leave education in the hands of government alone, you are making a mistake. What of the parents? What of religious leaders? What of the community? They all have responsibility in the education of the child. In my part of the world, we say 4 eyes bring a child to the world. 200 eyes bring train a child. And this, or a village, train a child. And that training of a child by community, the responsibility of the community.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much for that response.
Yeah, well,
I'll come to you again.
Okay, all right.
I'll come to you again.
Since I'm getting you, you are getting fed up with me. I will
No,
stop.
certainly not. It's just so that all the other members of the panel also are able to contribute, sir. So let me ask you, Professor Ogundipe, I'm going to be a little partial, starting from my extreme left. Professor Ogundipe, you have heard 4 eyes bring a child into the world. It takes a village to raise that child. How do you think we can begin to imagine the resources or harness the resources that we need from the village to be able to get that child through tertiary education?
Thank you, sir. The former president, my pro-chancellor here, Senator Lanre Tejuosho, and I want to say that there is need for everybody to be in the issue of education in Nigeria. Like the former president said, it is not only the government that should be involved in the funding of tertiary education at the lower level of education in Nigeria. The community will need to be involved. The mosque, the churches, the leaders will have to be involved. And also the companies that we have in Nigeria will need to be involved. It's not only in the issue of awarding scholarship to some of the students that matters. There is need for them to invest in tertiary education in Nigeria by funding specific projects in Nigerian universities, polytechnic, monotechnics. Because the reason why I'm saying this is based on my little experience in the University of Lagos. Many of the companies that we have in Nigeria are not participating in funding tertiary education in Nigeria. The communities that we have in Nigeria, they are expecting something from the tertiary education, the institutions in their community. And apart from that, the missions, that is the churches, the mosque, who are even supposed to support, we have few of them who are showing interest in that area. So I believe, like the former president said, that the community will need to participate in funding education. The companies in Nigeria, I will not mention a company, and I will not mention the university that I went for my postdoc in the UK. You find that the company in Nigeria has the best laboratory, the food technology laboratory in that university. And I know that that company is making a lot of money in Nigeria. But there is no project, no research, nothing that they are funding in any Nigerian universities. So there is need for us to look at that direction. In fact, some of these companies, they left Nigeria to go to Ghana. But they are not making sales. They came back to Nigeria and they're making a lot of profit. So there is need for the house to look at the possibilities of getting these companies involved, and if need be, for them to have tax waiver or something like that, that will make them, I believe, to show more interest in funding tertiary education system in Nigerian universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, there are further questions in that regard. You've talked about how companies need to fund universities, and you were Vice Chancellor at the University of Lagos. If there's anything, a number of people will say that perhaps your institution was a little fortunate being domiciled in Lagos and getting some attention from some companies who meant well. I see you shaking your head. Well, you can either agree or disagree, but tell us what your experience was in that regard. What deficit in terms of what comes in from the federal government, and also what you actually think you need on the ground? I mean, you're no longer Vice Chancellor now, but what you think universities need on the ground and how you think companies can come in. Do you also think that there is a framework in place for companies to be able to come in without let or hindrance?
Thank you very much. In the Nigerian university system, to the best of my knowledge, the companies have easy access to the universities once they can get the council of the university involved. The other side of it is that when we look at, you are saying that I should let you know from my own experience. When we look at the problems that we have office, we decided that there's need for us to come up with a slogan, P3P. Pick a project, pick a person, pick a program. Because I don't want them to be paying to the university account and they will now think that we are mismanaging that fund. So the companies, the individuals, the friends of the university, let them pick a particular project, let them pick a person, let them pick a program. With that, we are able to attract about 3 companies and also friends of the university who are able to assist us in that area. In the area of pick a project, very soon one of the companies, they are going to start the construction of a building for us. Bank of Industry, we brought them in to assist us in putting up a structure and also in funding our students in the area of innovation entrepreneurship. Also to give them startup grant. The student startup grant maximum of 2 million for them to start their own business in the University of Lagos. We're also able to attract friends who, through them, we were able to register 64 companies for our students in the University of Lagos. And the projection now is to register 2,000 companies for our students. So we're able to attract friends in that area to support us. Attract companies, like I said, Bank of Industry, Sahara Group, who are putting up a building for us in the area of innovation. NITDA also, they came up with the construction of a building for us, and also to support our innovation. Individuals, we now brought in individuals, the friends of the university, like Alhaji Femi Okunu, who donated over 100 million for the vertical extension of the Faculty of Law for us, and also some other companies like Platform Capital, who renovated the HRDC building for us.
So you make my point about the fact that private entities are interested in helping to fund tertiary education. What hindrances have been in their way? Is it that they did not think about it before now? And what did you do to be able to attract that level of investment? I also imagine that this did not mean that ASU did not go on strike at the University of Lagos when ASU was on strike. So this certainly hasn't also answered certain other issues bordering on strikes, and even the quality of the education delivered within, say, the University of Lagos. How do you think that these sort of interventions can improve? Because essentially what we're asking to do is improve the quality of education delivered in our tertiary institutions, and also ensure that we're able to replicate same across board while getting more people into the tertiary education system.
Yeah, I've given one solution, and I think the Honorable Speaker, with his interest in especially tertiary education, will take it up, and that is the issue of giving maybe tax waiver for companies that are showing interest in investing in tertiary education in Nigeria, Nigerian University. Issue of ASU, like the former president said, that problem will always come up until we are able to sit down together and see ourselves as partners in moving the university system forward. When I was chairman, when I was the VC of the University of Lagos, once I get any message from the union members, I call them for a meeting, except I'm out of Lagos. So we should see them as partners in moving the system forward. We should not see them as enemies of the system. And the third point from what you have raised, that companies are interested. Yes, what they want to know is what is in it for us. What do you plan to give to that company? Because there is no free lunch. Somebody has paid for it. You have to work for it. Do you want to tell those companies, if you fund or you do this for us, during the admission process, we'll be able to give your company this number of admission people based on your interest who have met our requirement. We have what we call the discretional admission, which we can give to your company. That must be something that they are going to get. If they them to get, they will not show interest. Number two, you must let them know that there will be a platform through which they can interact with your company and with the university. A company came, we were able to get the company to do the Shofolue Park for us. And we now said, well, you know, you can do the part of the library for us. You do it in such a way that your company will now customize that place. And subsequently, anytime you want to have any program, you can come to that place, use that facility, because we know at the end of the day, our students will benefit from what they are going to do. So there must be something in need for those companies that you want to attract to the university. I remember when we visited your chairman, Dr. John Momo, and that was the time we started our, before I came into office, we started our radio, University of Lagos Radio. He was one of the people that showed interest and assisted us to make the radio to go online, and they are one of the best in the country now. When we started our television too, University of Lagos was the first university to have the television station. We also approached him because he is an alumnus of the University of Lagos. There must be something in it for the company that you are bringing in. Number two, there must be something in it for the friends you are bringing in. Like I told you, the Sahara group, they are giving us a building. They are going to give our students scholarship. They are going to sponsor our academic staff that want to go for conference outside the country. What did I bring? What did I give to them? The building that we are going to take it to council for approval, so that that building that we are going to call Diamond Jubilee Building, you put the name of the company there. That is what is in it for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ogundipe. Let me come to you, Professor Edeora. I mean, one of the things I have heard, and I seem to be hearing over and over again, is that ASU strikes will always be with us. I do not want my children to grow up and ASU strike is still a part of Nigerian lexicon. Do you think that there is a way out of this?
Thank you, Moderator. Your Excellency, let me stand on the already established protocol. Let me take it up from where my colleague stopped. ASU should not be looked at as the enemy of the university. Rather, they should be looked at as those who really want the university to be in the best form, to deliver their role as character-molded institutions. Baba, yes, we bought cars, but mostly Tokumbo. Nobody bought SUV. Nobody bought private jet. There's no lecturer. The problem is that of what? Money, fund. If fund is available, ASU will not go on strike. So I traveled to Cape Town and I visited a Department of Chemistry. Pfizer gives them millions of dollars because of what? Researches in different aspects of medicine. I mean drug manufacture. I went to University of Buhari in Sweden, and Boeing, that manufacture plane, continue giving them millions of dollars because they fabricate certain parts of aeroplane. But we are together in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam. The day IITA went and commissioned the laboratory in Dar es Salaam. That laboratory is not only to be used by IITA. Research institutes, universities, we are made to know they will be using the laboratory as a result of partnership. So I think our colleagues, together with government, should explore the possibility of going into partnership with those companies we are talking, those individuals we are talking, organizations, and if that is done, we won't have much problem of fund, because the stage we are now is just like the situation of a pregnant woman with a broken waist. You don't know how to back her. If there's money, nobody will hate not to do his job and make money. Look at, in this year, out of 12 months, colleagues were not paid 8 months' salaries. And can't you see how most of us are looking? If there's money, everybody will be busy. I borrowed it. This scarf was worn by my father. So I just went to the house and collected it.
Culture.
Yes.
The food that your father ate, you cannot eat, but the dress that your father used, you can use. So you have to pay more attention to agriculture.
The partnership will resolve all these problems. But while talking of partnership, the government too will also help. As a vice chancellor of a University of Agriculture, a company came from Brazil to cultivate cassava, and from cassava produce ethanol, biofuel. But up to date, we couldn't get CFO from government. And the CFO, certificate of office, was the first requirement for that company to come. Because they don't want to come and establish a place where to borrow the locals. The natives will say, this is where my grandfather was buried.
and as such, you should vacate. So government should also partner with the universities in removing such bottlenecks. If these are done, I don't see any problem. Then to colleagues too, let all of us also try and market the university. Because if somebody wants to invest and sees you looking haggard, you are coming to tell him that you don't give bribe, you don't take bribe, and because of that, you should be the way you appear. The man will even fear that when he brings the money there, the money will be used in first of all taking care of you people. Look at Baba, how is he looking today? I'm sure if he goes home now, he will discard this one. If we call him tomorrow to come here again, he will come with a new one. So let's learn to market ourselves, thereby marketing the university. So that when someone comes from outside, he will think, oh, this environment is where I can put my money, and the money will be used for what it's meant for. We cannot just be waiting for manna to fall from heaven. Nothing is cheap. Everything that is good is not cheap. So we must bring every stakeholder together to partner so that at the end of the day, we will not have the problem or the challenge of funding, which is the main thing, the main challenge we have in tertiary institutions in Nigeria.
Well, I do know that funding has been an issue. It's not just an issue, limited to Nigeria, and a lot of other countries have had to find ways, reimagine ways to ensure that they get the right funding for their system. Former president agrees that it's not only the government that can fund our tertiary education. I mean, he was very clear when you spoke about how the government can find the resources to ensure that primary and secondary school children, but you had reservations when it came to tertiary education, and government alone cannot do it. Am I right on that count?
All forms of education at all levels
Indeed.
must involve the entire community. Now, funding is a different issue, but education of children at all levels must be the responsibility of the community. And if we are talking of funding, yes, there will be areas, for instance, in primary schools. I believe you need primary school should be tuition free, secondary school should be tuition free. Now, whether you live in your house or how you live in your house, go to school. For primary, for secondary. Tertiary, we will talk about that.
Well, that's essentially what we have to talk about. Funding for tertiary education. Because if you look at the reason, Professor Sodeka is here, I see you, I recognize you, or let me say I acknowledge your presence here. If you look at the heart of the demands made by ASU and the issues that continue to come to the fore, because ASU continues to say, we're not just asking for ourselves, we're asking for the institutions that we represent, we're asking for the future of this country. At the heart of it is funding for our tertiary education. Some countries have said, students will have to pay some fees. How do we get that money? If the students are not able to afford it right now, can we give them loans? There have been different solutions brought up by different countries. Professor Tukur, let me ask you, which one of these solutions do you think that we can adopt to begin to reposition our universities, our tertiary institutions, not just universities now, and let them occupy the pride of place that they truly deserve? Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Thank you, Madam, for giving me the opportunity to participate in this very important issue, because I've spent all my life in education. See, all my working life is in education. So I've retired, but I feel so bad when I see what education has come. Now, let me start with Oga. I will thank him for making me Vice Chancellor of a university that's how I became Vice Chancellor. And funding is one of the first problem I've had to face. When I went, I found every month I was looking for 6 million, 7 million, or 8 million of a draft to pay the salaries. And every NUC will tell me one thing, the area boys will tell me another thing. I said, all right. You know the problem of running a university. University is, I'm not going down to the other tertiary institutions, because the laws of those tertiary institutions are different from the laws of the university. And it's difficult to find a solution that can fit all. For example, the Minister of Education is virtually in charge of polytechnics, College of Education, and other such things. Minister of Education, as a person or as a ministry, has no business in the university. And that is why I worry. When Minister of Education, Minister of Labor, they sit down day and night talking to ASU, making noise and so on. ASU knows. If you read, I read the law of your university. You know, like, Vice Chancellor, I read the law of your university. There is no way a Minister of Education has been mentioned. And I had problem with some of his ministers, your own ministers, sir. When I was Vice Chancellor, Professor Osuji virtually queried me for making an appointment. I wrote him a 3-letter response where I quoted the law. Many people running universities don't study the law. Nobody in the ministry studies the individual law of every university. ASU members may, but ASU, as they are opportunistic. They know it's better to deal with government and make noise, go to the radio, go to this, and squeeze government to sign things that are, ASU, they are not employed by government. Government too is wrong by putting them in the IPIS. But if we look, any university law says the council is your employer. And another problem in Nigerian university system. Now the council is your employer. Then you had this autonomy bill. Sorry to say, Your Excellency, you did not sign the first one. See, they brought a bill to his table. We are following. I was the Vice Chancellor. They say, Obasanjo said over his dead body, you are handing over this university to unions. And that's what's happening now. If you look at the Council of University of Lagos, I am sure you may have maybe 11 or 12 internal members. Yes. And then government has 7. Because you have 3 deputy vice chancellors, one vice chancellor, that is 4. Then you have 4 from Senate, that is 8. You have 2 from congregation, that is 10. And you have another one from, they call it convocation, who apparently is going to be an internal member too. You have a council where you have 3/4 of the members are also the ones who are employed, and they are the ones who are determining how now you should run this university. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. In America, there's a conflict of interest. If you are a member of academic or something, you cannot be in the, unless you are vice chancellor as honorary member. Here, the unions have dribbled government into making this autonomy bill, which our wise father refused to sign. In between hospital journeys, they got Umar to sign that bill, Umar Yaradua. Yaradua, unfortunately, was not well that time. I am ASU member, and you know. So we are now settled with a problem, fundamental problem, where you have a law that allows the council to run the universities. They have no business. The University of Lagos, there's another university in Damaturu. So also I sit down with government and they say, okay, senior lecturer, you should get 200,000. Your allowance body in Lagos, you want to have a blank sheet that says everybody who is a senior lecturer should get the same money, whether the one in the village, because a lot of these things are in village. Government want to establish a university, the minister or somebody talks to you, and then they get a university right there in the village, and people are even looking for you to come and take his house, because in Abuja he built a house. So, how can you say, because of uniformity, the military mentality we have, you have lecturers, somebody is in neurosurgery, somebody is in electronics and computer, and so on. And you want them to take the same salary as somebody like me who is in anthropology or whatever it is, I'm architecture anyway, in anthropology or architecture or sociology, because of this model that we have. That is not how the world operates. When I went to university, we had professors. I will also refer to Oga. His son also went to University of Michigan because he wrote me a letter that they wanted a recommendation from somebody who is from there. Do you know, I had it for you, they put you somewhere there, I say, okay, if you put Obasanjo there, they come and carry you, and Mustafa come and carry me. I'm not. So we had people who were taking, I remember Professor Suche, she's teaching us what they call art history and so on. Her salary was only 22,000 per annum.
Professor, quite a number of issues which you have identified. You've talked about laws, the fact that people are not reading the laws, setting up the universities.
All right. The law setting up universities.
Yes, you've talked about how government is not the direct employer of ASU and how autonomy of universities, which a number of people thought should have been an advantage.
These universities are autonomous by law. And I told you, I quarreled with 4 ministers who are trying to trample on. There was no autonomy bill by that time. I can remember my colleague, Osuji, sent me a query. I read it back a response, which was 3 pages, and the matter died there. Another one.
So would you say that we should scrap
autonomy? No, because the problem of people don't understand the law. The Minister of Education, for example, believes he's in charge of universities. And 4 of them, I told them they are not in charge. And they are there in my file in Federal University of Technology, Mina. Vice chancellors and everybody wants to find a place to hide. What have you got to do with Minister of Labor? Are you a liberal? There are all this discussion. If you check the laws of individual universities, and universities have individual laws, VC of Lagos can decide, this is a hardship area. I'm going to pay 5 million naira per month for a professor from this area. Well, I'll give you 1 billion per month. That's how these big universities operate. They don't operate on a civil service plate. This is how the problem. And now how do you get the money? That's another problem.
What is your solution for getting the money?
Money, as Oga said, there are 2 stakeholders there. Higher education cannot be left to government because the benefits of higher education does not go to government. It goes to the parents and the students. The parents and the students are the beneficiaries. No. When we were independent, initially we were independent, when we had to replace officers and so on, government can carry all the load, and the universities were very few. Now you say one government can carry these 40 or 50 federal universities, where America as it is, has only 2 federal universities. They do other things to help, but not carrying the load. So we are not learning from other people. Now, when I go back to my experience because money is involved. When I got this letter and I sat there, everybody was making noise, money, I said no. His Excellency has finished his work. This is a letter that he says, I am in charge of this place. And this is the laws. Let us sit down and sort out this problem among ourselves. Yes, as so as difficult as you think they are, or students are problematic as they are, when we are not coming with this kind of high-falutin position of the 1960s and 70s, with some Marxian slogans and so on, even the Chinese now, they pay fees. So we said, all right, there must be contribution from parents and from students. Otherwise, this system cannot go. I cannot be getting paying overdraft of 8 million every month. So let me see what we can do. We sat down with the students. During holiday. We agreed we are going to do some charges. Because the charges that Oga left in the book, and he didn't want to hear about fees. So the word fees never entered my proposal. So they are paying 19 naira per hostel room on paper. They will take that 19 naira hostel and sell it 15,000. And expect me to maintain the hostel. I said, all right, let's call something hostel maintenance. Put 5,000 there, plus that 90. So we went around each of these small items. We built it up to 50,000. These were people who are paying 12,000 to return. They said, here we lose broke. Our fathers are poor. Our this. So look, people don't concentrate on their job. My own business here is to run this university properly, is to raise the standard. I'm not the Minister of Finance or Minister of Economic Development to check your father's salary and so on and so forth. I am here. If you bring me your 90, your 50,000, you come in here. If you don't ask me to sympathize. And do you know, these students, after they have understood what we are trying to do, and so on, we agreed, look, this 50,000 is reasonable. That was, I'm talking of 2003. So not now, 50,000 now, maybe, if you multiply now, it's about 200,000. So even one state governor said all students from the state, he was going to pay for them. That we should remove the list, the host governor. I told him, I don't want kobo from you. I'm charging the students. Go and give them scholarship. They come and pay me. Okay? So some of these people, they are young. Because they have become governors, they think they are smart. So I refused the money. So he paid once. He never paid again until I finished. So money, people talk about poverty, about this, about that. Why should university lecturer be worried about that? Let government, in its wisdom, worry about how this money comes. But you see, okay, coming to what can be done. Because I tell you, when I collected the first 50,000 per students, and my council came, and they were on me, I know what I did was wrong, because council is the one that fixes fees. They asked me, who gave you the power? Because you are showing a petition. I said, look, council is not in session, and I have to open this university. So, what do you want me to do? Do I return the money to the students? So, have you collected the money? I said, yes. How much? Only 750,000, a million. They have never had that kind of money. Because we used to give us 200 million to do the projects. So, people, it's the attitude of people and the way you handle it. And students never demonstrated. And ASU went ahead with me because all the allowances that they were supposed to get, I got it from the students and paid them. And even the next 3 years or so, even when ASU is on strike, they will go and find an excuse and say, look, this is our university, we have suffered 2 years of closure. We should be exempted. That's how I ran the university for 5 years. And people come and tell me, oh, university students are difficult, Nigerians are poor. Now, what government has been proposing in their discussion with us, for example, like they do in America. Those whose parents can pay, you fix the money they pay. And those whose parents cannot pay, you have education bank. They have that one even in Kenya, they have it in Tanzania, they have in all these places. And these days of digital era, there's nobody, somebody will default. Even if we default, so what? There are people who are flying jets in this country who are defaulters of banks. So, but if my own problem as a university teacher is to get the money, get the place moving, and so on. How you got the money? Let government put up the bank. And as we say, no, education should be free. Who went to free education? When I was in school, in the city, we paid.
A very interesting experience you had. The speaker did say that obviously they have enjoyed your sharing your experience with them. The speaker did say we should break tables, and you have not held on that one. You have been breaking tables, from before now. I'm just wondering whether or not we accept it. Poverty is a real issue. As we wrap up our discussion right now on reimagining the education, tertiary education in Nigeria, Baba Obasanjo has asked us to, put in perspective the fact that our population will be, even bigger than what it is now by the year 2050. But we have been told only recently by the National Bureau of Statistics that 133 million, our current 210 million people plus, are multi-dimensionally poor. That is not even the number of people who are, children who are out of school. So poverty is a factor. Whether or not we like it, it's a reality. Looking forward, how do you think that we can begin to pull ourselves? Because we know that education, as Mr. Speaker highlighted, is a silver bullet. And tertiary education is even more important in getting families out of poverty. So as we wrap up, I want you to give us your closing thoughts on how we can, still get the funding that we need. Because funding, as far as I know, is at the heart of this, without, stressing people who are already poor.
Thank you very much. I believe the starting point is this. Any Nigerian child should never be deprived of education for lack of means. Any Nigerian child should never be deprived the right of education for lack of means. The Honorable Speaker said to us that he has initiated something loan. Now, I believe that is very important. The point is that can we run it without corruption? Can we bring integrity into it? Can we really make sure that only those who deserve get the loan? Now, my own children should not go to university and be asking for loan. Then, as he said, I believe that, and that's what I said I will come to, we cannot say at the university level, everything will be free. There will have to be certain amount of money to be paid. And for me, that amount of money to be paid should be, because they pay it in private universities. Why not in government universities? That amount of money that has to be paid must be paid. And if you don't have money and the means shows that you haven't got money, then what should be is the bank or the loan or whatever it is, where, of course, at the end of your educational process, you can start paying back. Now, if we start from that point, that no Nigerian child can benefit from tertiary education should be deprived of tertiary education because of lack of means, and in tertiary institutions, certain amount of tuition have to be paid, and that will be determined, and I believe we will be getting there.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, former President. Just quickly, I'm going to take your closing thoughts. I'm going to come to you, Professor Hilary Edeoga. The initial question I posed to you is about ASU strikes and whether or not you think that this is something that should continue perennially, and what solutions you have. I want your final thoughts on that.
Thank you. Nobody likes strike. Even the ASU members don't like strike. But there is a saying in Igbo land, you don't eat a soup without giving something to prepare it. So there must be that barest minimum that should be available. So that even when the ASU members start going on, so they say, my friend, why? This we can still take it up from there. That's why I'm talking of partnership. That's why I will support the issue of paying fees. There are some of us, when we had admission to go to the university, it generated a lot of controversy in the family. How much? 64 naira a year. But some of us were abused for taking certain decisions that was too mighty for the family, general family to carry. If you go to UK today, you will hear that somebody is doing a program for £14,000 a year. The university will lure you by say, okay, let's give you scholarship of £3,000. You are still going to pay £11,000. Nothing good is free. No, there is no free lunch. So let's have at least the barest minimum to be paid by, let it be graduated. Different courses, different charges. Some universities today charge as much as 6.5 million for a first year student in medicine. 6.5 million. My salary as a professor in a year is not up to that.
And that has to change.
Pardon?
I said that has to change, certainly.
It has to change.
Indeed.
Because if you are doubting it, if you multiply 416,000 by 12, it's not up to 6.5 million.
So partnership.
Partnership. Then charging of minimal fees. You cut your coat according to your material, not to your size. If the material is just for skirt, you don't have to say skirt and blouse. If it's not for agbada like Baba, you make it, if it is for short knickers, a small one like me, you make it like that. I can't afford this to make agbada of it. That's why I made this paper one. That system should be brought into the university system. So that, look at the example my colleague gave, how he generated 700 and something million from just 50,000 naira per student. And these students are ready to pay it, provided they will leave the university after 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, as the case may be. So let my colleagues in the university, the teachers in the university, the tertiary institution, accept that minimum. Let's know those that deserve the scholarship. Those who have brain from a very poor home, because poverty is real in Nigeria. There are some people today, even to have 1,000 naira in a month is a problem. That's why we are being, we are facing what we are facing today.
So that partnerships to make it work will be one of the areas to look at. Closing thoughts, Professor Ogundikpe, on how you think that moving forward we can begin to reposition our tertiary institutions and make them occupy pride of place.
Thank you very much. I want to correct something, please. I hope the lecturers are not the one that Professor Tuko was calling the area boys. My colleagues are not area boys, they are scholars. So I need to say that. Number two, he was able to take the risk then because he had the backing of the president. That was why he was able to charge 50,000 naira without getting the approval of council, which I cannot do now without getting the approval of council. So you can see that, you can see the problems that we have now. He was able to take that risk because when you see a dog backing a lion, definitely there's a big hunter behind that dog. And when you see the dog, the lion now turning back, the lion knows that if I take the attempt, if I make the attempt to kill that dog, I'm a gunner. So he was able to do that because he had the backing of Mr. President because of the past relationship. I cannot take that risk now. If I take that risk, they will take me to the public platform, social platform, which was not very strong that time. And before you know it, they'll bring that to university. And we are interested in maintaining that brand of our university. So we need to follow due process in whatever we do. I also want to say that to save the university now, what government can do is to hand off accommodation by telling the university, determine whatever you want to charge concerning accommodation. We are not interested. I know how much we pay concerning the janitorial electricity bill. 2021, my pro-chancellor is here. Our electricity bill in University of Lagos for the whole year in the 3 campuses, 1.7 billion naira. 1.7 billion naira. And we are giving 115 as recurrent. So it cannot even pay our bill for 1 month. So if you can say accommodation, government is not interested, let the university determine whatever they want to do concerning accommodation, how much they want to charge. I'm sure my pro-chancellor will be excited that at least we have money that we can walk around with to run the university. The students are paying 24,000 naira per annum. And now that we have 8 months strike, for 1.5 years, the students have not paid for accommodation. We are running bill concerning electricity bill, utility bills. So, number one thing that we need to think about that can solve the problem, the hanging fruit now, accommodation, say, look, just take care of accommodation. We are not interested. And charge the appropriate, because like Professor Tuko said, somebody paying 90 naira and is giving the accommodation out for thousands of naira. The same thing in University of Lagos, somebody that paid 24,000 naira and because he's in Lagos is practicing to become an agent in future. He will now let the best space out for maybe 500,000 naira. You pay 24,000 naira, and that is the first tenant. The second tenant, those who are just come to the room, sleep within 4 hours and get the room. Someone can pay 60,000 naira. So depending on let's just say, just give it out. We are not, government is not interested. Let our principal make that announcement. We are not interested. Whatever this university want to do, let them handle the issue of accommodation. Then they'll be able to charge appropriately. And once that one is off, I'm sure the universities will do better in that area. And the other one is concerning obligatory fees, which Professor Tuko also spoke about. We charge obligatory fee, but when you look at the obligatory fee, it cannot take us that far. So there is need for university. We came up with this proposal, which we presented to government, my former vice chancellor, how much it costs in 2012 to train a dental student. It's 8 million naira, 1.8 million naira. It's the most expensive program, followed by medicine. And if you are saying that 1.8 million naira to train a student at the dental science program, you know how much that one costs. The government can now say that what we want to say, is that if you are going to charge, you charge minimum fee. For indigent students, what we can do is to give them loan which can be paid in the next 10 years. We are going to talk about that later, in the next 10 years. Because all over the world, like Professor Tuko said, in China now, right from 1999, they introduced loan system, which was aborted in 2003 or 2004. But 2007, they came up with it again, and it's working well. And with that, they were able to increase the number of students coming to the university. Even in Germany, where we are talking about free education at university level, they are also thinking about introducing fee into the university system. So you go through all this platform. In Hungary, is the same thing. There's need for us to sit together in this country to determine what we want the area of tertiary higher education system. I always say one thing: show me any country that is succeeding in the world, and I will point to a country that is funding education appropriately. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and it's a really fine place to leave it. I see that Professor Sodeka is saying that they need the right of reply, but that will be after this panel and at the discretion of the Masters of Ceremony. Thank you very much for that clarification. On that note, I have to thank my panelists. It's been quite an interesting session listening to you. Your Excellency, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, former President of Nigeria, asking us to reimagine not just tertiary education, but education as a whole, because he believes that when we straighten the leg of the cripple, the load on top of the head of the cripple will certainly be straight. So thank you so much for bringing that thoughts to us. Thank you for sharing your experience. Professor Hamman Tukur Saad, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Technology, MENA, thank you so much for that. Professor Hilary Adeoga, we certainly will learn to sew our clothes according to our cloth. And manage it and certainly look towards partnerships. And Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundigbe, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And I did not know that VCs were aware of the fact that, you know, accommodation was resold after it had been sold to the students, but it's good to know that, you know, will I say ejasi, so to speak. Thank you so much for being a part of this panel. Please kindly help me normally thank my panel with a round of applause. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Maokwe. And thank you very much. I think they deserve another round of applause, please. A bigger one at that.
Please, we would have to take photo opportunities before the panelists leave the stage. Honorable Speaker, please kindly join them on upstage so that since this is the first panel, so that we can quickly take pictures before they go down. Thank you so much, lead moderator, Mrs. Mabeoku. Ladies and gentlemen, please do, if you are on the next panel, I do ask you to please get ready to get up, come on stage. Once they are, once the first set of panelists of the stage, we would introduce the next moderator who would call up the panelists. Okay.
The Minister of State for Education, could you please join us?
Simultaneously, this is one panel discussions, paper presentations, contributions here. And the second part is, like Mr. Speaker mentioned, papers have been sent in from all around the world by Nigerians. These papers sent in are currently being collated by a team. Mr. Speaker mentioned that a team of young persons are working on this. I wish you would meet them. Their brains are on fire. They are collating these papers. They are hoping to glean from them suggestions, ideas, recommendations. What they are able to glean from these papers sent from across the world, and what we are able to arrive at here at this summit would be put together to form what the Speaker has called an action plan on which legislations will be made to reform the tertiary education section. Please do welcome the speaker, the presenter of the paper to set the tone for this session, Dr. Suleiman Danusa. Right after this, will the session start?
Dr. Suleiman will be talking on the topic identifying and implementing pragmatic approaches to funding public tertiary education in Nigeria. You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, because of time, I will skip other protocols. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to speak on identifying and implementing pragmatic approaches to funding public tertiary education in Nigeria. Like you will see in the program, I've been tagged as former Director General of Securities and Exchange Commission. So the question that comes to mind, what has the DG of SEC to do in a place where you have professors, vice chancellors, and other stakeholders in the education sector? Well, I'm going to speak from my life journey and my journey in the educational sector so as to set the tempo for what I'm going to say. Number one, I've attended 3 Nigerian universities and I got 4 degrees in those universities. So that makes me a participant observer as a student. Ahmadu Bello University, where I had 2 degrees. I went to Unilag and also Nasarawa State University, from first to a PhD. Now, I also went to a university abroad, which gives me an international content, both a degree, a PhD, and also a number of certifications from Cambridge, then to Harvard. I was a pro-chancellor of IBB University, Mina, for 8 years. And then I was MD of Springbank. That makes me also a banker. Currently, I'm an adjunct professor at the University, Nasarawa University, in the Department of Accounting and Finance. I'm also an adjunct professor for policy and research at NISA, Ibadan.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories. Without the news from every perspective, covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
Business lives on the fast track of numbers. Business is a strange world where low numbers mean something different. And its currency are speed and time. Finding the open doors of Main Street is not just good business, it's the start of the business. Join us every weekend on Business Week.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
It's not your regular show. It's an online interactive session where I will share my views on the everyday issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. I am passionate about our country. I choose to support any conversation geared towards building a better Nigeria. I am Babajide Kolaji Otitoju. Join me every Saturday on TVC News YouTube channel as I discuss Nigeria and the world at large on the show, Issues with Jide.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and governments to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Through physical contact with an infected animal.
We are not even sure whether we have a strategy for security.
Are you saying that there was nothing wrong in that?
Was he the one driving the taxi?
Answer the question.
Refill your morning with all you need to know.
Like
yes, just mundane lyrics.
Yes.
How does that fit into your scheme of events or duties right now?
No chief of staff, no general has the right to call a governor to order. The governor has been elected by his people.
Start your day right, because this is the breakfast show that adds to your breakfast. TVC Breakfast, weekdays at 7 a.m. only on TVC News.
The north is so beautiful, and the food, it's nothing like I have ever tasted before. The color,
Vibrant. What about the aroma?
the aroma, oh gosh, it smells just like this one.
It smells so good.
Yeah. Your Dambo Shinkafa tastes even better. How did you do it?
Onga seasoning. It's all the seasoning you need for great taste and aroma.
Onga, Mama's helping hand.
Are
Are you out of airtime or data? Do you need airtime to make that important call or browse the internet? Then use Ding! With Ding, you can request airtime top-up from your friends and families anywhere in the world and have it delivered on your mobile phone within 3 seconds. Interesting, right? All you have to do is download the Ding app or visit www.ding.com/request to create your Ding profile and share your profile link with your family and friends anywhere in the world. Easy, right? Ding is a leading international mobile recharge service with the highest rating on Trustpilot, top-level security, and amazing 24-hour customer support. It is safe because your details are secure, fast because you receive your airtime in 3 seconds, and easy because the sender doesn't need to bother about your phone number or mobile operator. Visit www.ding.com/request or download the app to start receiving airtime on your phone today.
In business news, the International Monetary Fund has faulted the Central Bank of Nigeria about its monetary policy, maintaining that the Apex Bank has been ineffective in its fight against rising inflation. In its report tagged How Fiscal Restraints Can Help Fight Inflation, the IMF wants the Central Bank of Nigeria to reduce its monetary policy rate